Yeah, Ananya, the floor is yours. You can start. Unmute.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ananya Ameya, Research Associate of Praghna Centre for Research. On behalf of Shri and Srimati Rajamaniamkam and Dr. and Mrs. Srinivasan, it is my privilege today to welcome Admiral MP Muralidharan Ati Vishisht Seva Medal and Bar No Seva Medal, our chief guest, Commodore RS Vasan, our guest of honor, Dr. Krishnakumar from Indian Forest Services, Professor Rajat Ganguly, Professor Allan John, Professor JJ Reddy, Professor N Balasubramaniam, Shri Saurajit Ghosh, Commodore SL Deshmukh, Professor Dr. Ashok Dua, Commander JK Nair, Mr. Kanav Kansra, and Mr. Pratik. Our publishers, esteemed members of the editorial and review board of Electronic Journal of Social and Strategic Studies, members of the distinguished audience, interns, and parents who have joined us in this evening. Thank you for joining us. As you are aware, we are observing our second anniversary of Praghna Centre for Research. I will be your MC for the first part of the program, and Anaswara will conduct the second part. I will introduce and invite our distinguished invitees to share their perspectives. Please, before I do so, please mute your mics. Your comments can be shared in the chat box. I now call upon Group Captain Dr. R. Srinivasan, Vishisht Seva Medal, Founder Director of Praghna Centre for Research, for his introductory address.
Thank you, Ananya. Ladies and gentlemen, my namaskarams to my parents first, who are the source of great inspiration in the undertakings of Praghna. Admiral Muralidharan sir, Commodore Vasan sir, Dr. Krishnakumar, Professor Rajat Ganguly, Professor Raju, Professor Allan John, Professor Jayachandra Reddy, Professor Balasubramaniam, Shri Saurajit Ghosh, Commodore Deshmukh, Professor Dr. Ashok Dua, Commander JK Nair, Mr. Kanav Kansra, and esteemed members of the editorial and review board of EJSSS, members of the distinguished audience, interns, and the parents who have taken their time to join us today. It's indeed a pleasure to have your august company to observe the second anniversary of Praghna Centre for Research. Praghna is actually a dream. I must put it in a very simple expression that way. In fact, the inspiration for Praghna came when I completed my PhD in 2018 at a very young age of 57. When I was going through that experience of the PhD work, a couple of things made a lasting impression on me. One was that the younger generation of scholars, students and young scholars, do have a lot of knowledge. It is just that they do not know how to construct their work and give it out as a meaningful research output. They need some kind of an assistance, which are not really forthcoming from the institutions where they study, at least in some institutions. The second thing which provided the inspiration was that, as you are aware, in fact, a distinguished editor-in-chief of a very esteemed journal is present online. So I'm just making a statement for the sake of conveying the meaning that highly placed and very highly respected scholarly journals do not, as a matter of practice or even as a matter of exception, publish research work by students. Okay, they have their reservations and they are rightful. I mean, they are correct in their perceptions about it. So I thought that students and young emerging scholars must be given a platform where they could publish good research work, provided they can really come out with that kind of an output which meets very high standards. So the first thing that we did was to institute a journal called Electronic Journal of Social and Strategic Studies in 2020. And that journal today has gained respectability, and it is being not only subscribed for, but being widely read by the scholarly community across the board. We are having contributions from almost practically every corner of the world, whether it is USA, whether it is Greece, Austria, Italy, South Africa, Ghana, I mean, so many places, and of course India. And I am happy to say that at least about about a fourth, say about 20% plus of the authors who have published through our journal are either postgraduate students or MPhil and PhD scholars. They have stood the blind peer review process. They have stood editorial scrutiny. We have gone out of the way to even instruct them and guide them, I don't mind saying it, in order to help them to come out with the final product. The thoughts are theirs, the final product. So the journal took started its journey in 2020. And then the second part of our journey was to create an institution which can singularly focus on fostering a scientific temper and aptitude for good research among students and young scholars. That is where Praghna was born in June 2021. In the first place, I must say with all humility and the permission of the audience that my parents provided that inspiration to me. They said, why don't you go and teach whatever you have learned? So that's how it started. And I'm grateful to Mrs. Sujata Deshmukh, because she is the one who gave us the name Praghna. She said Praghna means wisdom. So let your work propagate wisdom. So I'm grateful to both of them. I mean, and then the journey started. And in this short time, I would say that in the august company of such accomplished academicians who are fostering young minds in higher education institutes across the world, Praghna is not even a baby. It is yet to be born. Though we are completing our 2 years, we have taken some, shall I say, baby steps in these 2 years. And with your permission, I will just briefly, cover them for the sake of, our understanding as to where and what we do. Praghna is registered as LLP, Limited Liability Proprietorship, under the Companies Act of 2013. It's a not-for-profit educational institute. We conduct capacity building programs, if you will allow me to say so, for universities and colleges for research in social sciences. Of course, me and my wife are the founding directors. We have partnered with Madras University, Mahe, Pondicherry University, and think tanks across the board to conduct a lot of programs for students. We have covered almost about 150 plus students in this 2 years, where we have conducted 10 workshops or orientation programs on research writing. We have also hosted 12 thematic webinars with the higher education institutions, whether it is VIT, AP Law School in Vijayawada, or BITS Pilani, or Madras University, or Pondicherry University, and such other institutions on specific themes. We have hosted more than 12 webinars. We have also partnered with the Defense Research and Studies, which is a think tank in Kochi, to start what we call as the DRaS Praghna Research Writing Internship Program. in the last, say, about a year and a half, or maybe about 20 months, if you may take it that way, we have had more than 25 or 30 interns from various colleges and universities from across India, who have been mentored by Commodore Deshmukh, Dr. Dua, and of course me, to research into the topic of their choice. We have a wide variety, from commerce to political economy to international relations to security studies. And our interns have till now, I'm happy to say, they have published uh, 12 research papers and one book review. Okay. And commencing this year, we have also instituted this annual research paper prize, okay, named after my parents. One in political science, the other one is in history and society. Okay. And I also go and deliver invited talks at various think tanks and universities as part of Praghna's effort to reach out to the younger student community and propagate the scientific temper which I was mentioning about. Okay. In this 2 years, especially through the last about 8 months or so, we are also happy to say that there are 4 publications which we have come out with. Of course, first among our publications is a journal which I have already mentioned. The second was the Student Research Anthology, which consists of 8 research papers and one book review by our interns. Then a book on research writing, a complete guide, uh, which uh, which looks into research methodology as a practice with practical samples, practical examples, and guidelines and templates and formats and all that. And then, of course, a book which is authored by me, Peking, China, India, and the World, which interrogates China's relations with India and the world, analyzing the Chinese intent. And the India-Mongolia relations beyond Greater Central Asia is another book which has been published very recently by us. In fact, it is a it is a compilation of the papers that were presented in one of the thematic webinars which we held. These are the baby steps that we have taken so far, and we are eternally grateful to each and everyone present on the screen and otherwise, okay, who has been a source of great encouragement and support in all our endeavors to take our objectives forward. Okay, so saying, by expressing my gratitude to all of you for both encouraging Praghna and its endeavors, for supporting us, and for joining us today, giving us your valuable time and sharing with us your valuable thoughts. Okay, thank you very much for this. Ananya, all yours.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and participants, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed guests who have joined us today for this special event. Each of these individuals brings a wealth of expertise and experience in their respective fields. Allow me to provide you with a brief overview of their remarkable backgrounds. I would start with Vice Admiral MP Muralidharan, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal and Bar No Seva Medal. Vice Admiral MP Muralidharan is an alumnus of National Defence Academy and a postgraduate in Defence Studies. In a career of close to 4 decades in the Indian Navy, he has held several key appointments such as command of 3 warships, including the guided missile destroyer Ranvijay, naval assistant to the Chief of the Naval Staff and naval attaché at the Embassy of India, Moscow. As a flag officer, he has held the operational appointment of Maharashtra and Gujarat Naval Area, commandment of the Indian Naval Academy, and was the Chief of Personnel of the Navy prior to taking over as the 19th Director General of the Indian Coast Guard, from where he retired in February 2013. Post-retirement, the Admiral was appointed as a member of the Armed Forces Tribunal at its regional bench at Kochi, an appointment equivalent to a sitting judge of a high court. The Admiral, a keen student of strategic and defense-related issues with special focus on maritime affairs, is a member of various strategic study societies and institutions, and he is also a regular contributor to professional journals and a speaker at seminars and conferences. The Admiral was awarded the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal twice by the President of India and is also a recipient of the Nau Sena Medal. Moving on to Commodore RS Vasan. Commodore RS Vasan has a distinguished military service of over 34 years. His shore assignments include command of 2 naval air stations, Maritime Air Squadron, Air Crew Examiner, member of the faculty at the College of Naval Warfare, and Chief Staff Officer of the Southern Naval Command at Cochin, India. He commanded a patrol vessel during the IPKF. Prior to his retirement, he was the regional commander of the Eastern region of the Indian Coast Guard. He also steered the Maritime Security Program at the Observer Research Foundation, that is a major Indian think tank. He was also the head strategy and security studies in Center for Asia Studies in Chennai, joining as the director at Chennai Center for China Studies in 2017. His leadership marked C3S being designated as 122nd among 150 global think tanks, 47th out of 50 independent think tanks globally, and 33rd among the 100 think tanks in China, India, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. Now I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. N Krishnakumar, Indian Forest Services. Dr. Krishnakumar joined Bombay Natural History Society at Point Calumet Sanctuary as an ornithologist in 1980. His passion for conservation led him to join the Indian Forest Service in 1982 and retired after 35 years of service as the Principal Chief Conservator of Forests and Head of Forest Force of the state of Tamil Nadu in 2017. He is currently the Chairman Research Committee Kerala Forest Research Institute in Trichur. He is a member of Biodiversity Board, Tamil Nadu, and trustee at Chennai Snake Park Trust in Guindi. He is also the chairman at State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority of Government of Tamil Nadu. Some of the highlights of his distinguished serve are as director at Institute of Forest Genetics and Tree Breeding in Coimbatore, member and of expert committee on biodiversity in National Biodiversity Authority, India, member of Research Advisory Committee, Central Sericulture Silk Board, Hosur, and member of UPSC Selection Committee in 2018. His key interests and expertise are in the fields of forestry, tree improvement, forest genetic resources management network, wildlife and zoo management, leadership roles in research and administration, forest law, forest administration, community forestry, and internal linkages. He holds a PhD in zoology. He has published 23 papers, presented 62 conference papers, and co-authored 25 books in the fields of his expertise. Moving forward with Professor Rajat Ganguly. Dr. Rajat Ganguly teaches at the School of Management and Governance at Murdoch University, Perth, in Western Australia. He is a specialist in international relations, conflict and security studies, and Asian politics and international affairs. He has published widely in the areas of ethnic conflict, insurgency movements, and Asian politics and security. Some of his published books and monographs are Autonomy and Ethnic Conflict in South and Southeast Asia, Understanding Ethnic Conflict and Secessionism in South and Southeast Asia, Ethnicity and Nation Building in South Asia, and Kin-State Intervention in Ethnic Conflicts. He has his course, journal, papers published widely, and in numerous articles, interviews, and short pieces in other media. His specializations are in international relations, international security, defense and strategic issues, and conflict and peace studies with a particular focus on Asian politics and international affairs. He is also the editor-chief of Journal of Asian Society and International Affairs, published by SAGE. Now I request Dr. R. Srinivasan to make a small announcement.
Yeah, thank you, Ananya, for the introduction of our chief guest and other dignitaries. Now, please call upon them to deliver their addresses as per the program. Yeah, and I must inform you that due to certain urgent travel commitments which have come up, Professor Raju will not be able to join us, and Commodore Vasan sir is also traveling on the train, so he may be able to join subject to connectivity. So Ananya, you can invite the Admiral to deliver his address.
Okay, please join me in extending a warm welcome to our esteemed guests. Now I would invite Anaswara to take over.
Yeah, I think I will request Vice Admiral Muralidharan sir to deliver his address as our chief guest of this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Group Captain Dr. Srinivasan. Other distinguished members and panelists present here. At the outset, let me congratulate Praghna Centre for Research on their second anniversary of the research writing program and for organizing this webinar on the occasion. Actually, I wonder how time flies, because it appears just as if the other day we had the first anniversary function, and I've been indeed fortunate to be part of the first, as well as I'm really honored that I've been invited to speak at this function. My special pranams to Shri V. Rajamanikyam, who was a former DEO, and Srimati Kalavati, the parents of Dr. Srinivasan, who actually groomed and encouraged him to take such a path. Thank you both, sir. Well, let me say, research has always been fundamental to advances in human society. It emerges from our innate desire as human beings to seek to improve our lives and to control the world around us. To do this, we have to improve our understanding and our insight. Actually, we need to know how things work or they do not work, so that we can find different ways to use them or make them more efficient. In fact, it was Leonardo da Vinci who was obsessed with trying to understand how or why things worked in a particular manner in every field, including the inner workings of human anatomy, who epitomized the original meaning of the word research, which is derived from the old French terminology of recherche, or that is to go about searching or seeking. It is important to remember that research is not just about gathering information. In many ways, the choices that researchers make about what to research represents how they see the world and the things they value. Now, a word of advice to our young team of researchers and would-be researchers present and listening here. The purpose of research is to systematically investigate and gather information on a particular topic or issue with the aim of answering questions, solving problems, or advancing knowledge. The purpose of research can vary depending upon the field of study and the question or the item that you choose to research on. In general, it can be used to generate new knowledge and theories, gather information for decision making, evaluate the effectiveness of programs or policies, develop new technologies or products, or to identify new opportunities or areas for further study. So you need to go deep into the subject, and the level which you maintain while doing research should always be high, so that the findings you arrive at can be used in making policies and in planning future projects in the area. I noticed that our 5 young scholars who are here with us today have been doing research on varied topics, such as great power competition in the Gulf of Guinea, role of cooperative farming and emerging technologies in solving critical problems of our agricultural sector, protecting environment through the teachings of Buddha, Panchayati Raj institutions and political participation of women, and on keeping track of history, relevance of oral traditions, and material memory from a feminist perspective. As I observe, the research work being undertaken this year, just as it was last year, covers a wide variety of important subjects. But as a mariner, I do notice that once again, maritime issues have not attracted enough attention, even though virtually every second day in newspapers, magazines, and the media as such, you find some or the other relevant maritime issue being raised. Let me therefore bring in the relevance of maritime issues and why India as a nation needs to delve deeper into the subject and continue evaluating it on a continuous or regular basis. Now, maritime domain is one of the four domains of global commons, which for centuries has been considered as being well understood and acknowledged. However, since we began to exploit airspace, outer space, and more recently the cyberspace, the maritime domain is somewhat, I would say, is less understood and acknowledged. And at the root of the problem is sea blindness, or the failure to appreciate essential maritime component extent and how it affects our human activities. Well, the sea is out of sight for most, and therefore out of mind, and virtually to the virtually connected population of today that travels by land and by air, many of them think of the sea only as a holiday destination. The great majority of our leaders and citizens, landsmen, with virtually no maritime experience at all. However, the need for better understanding of the maritime domain and its importance was very well brought out at the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting in Lubchek in April 2015 in their Declaration of Maritime Security, where I said, and I quote, "The maritime domain is a cornerstone of livelihood of humanity, habitat, resources, and transport routes for up to 90% of intercontinental trade. It connects states and regions and makes otherwise distant nations neighbors. Humankind depends on a safe, sound, and secure maritime domain in order to preserve peace, enhance international security and stability, feed billions of people, foster human development, generate economic growth and prosperity, secure energy supply, preserve ecological diversity, and coastal livelihoods. As the world's population grows, reliance on oceans as a highway for commerce and source of food and resources will only increase even more. The free and unimpeded use of the world's oceans actually undermines every nation's journey into the future." Now, that, unquote, the relevance of maritime domain has been very clearly brought out, but it's been growing also, importance been growing in the recent decades. Well, the liberalization across the world towards the end of the last century has resulted in closer cooperation between nations in manufacturing, trade, and capital flows, virtually resulting in enhanced economic interdependence. With maritime domain playing an increasing role in world trade, the global economy is now actually in a way traveling by sea. Shipping today is one of the most important elements of world economy, as it has a role in every cycle, be it the supply chain, from the supply of raw materials to delivery of processed goods to the consumer. Well, the global maritime trades accounts for about 80% of the world trade by volume, 70% by value. There are close to 54,000 ships, estimated at about $450 billion worth, plying this ocean routes. This increasing dependence also means a corresponding economic impact when you compare the linked activities of about 6,500 ports, terminals operating across the world, generating nearly 14 million jobs. Now, the total trade across the oceans, if you take imports and exports is estimated at about $35,000 billion. Now, apart from transportation, oceans are also a major source of food, basically fish, metals, minerals, and energy resources. Incidentally, just fishing alone worldwide is a $100 billion industry, generating close to 260 million jobs. Well, as natural resources reduce on land, and with better technologies and with cheaper technologies being available, the extraction of resources from deep sea oceans and the importance of seas will only grow further. We are also seeing a lot of relocation of critical infrastructure to artificial islands and the growing use of submerged telecommunication cables. Now, the economic impact of the maritime sector, which is also termed as blue economy, is very significant. And the World Bank defines blue economy as the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihood and jobs, and ocean economic system. While we also hear terms like coastal economy and marine economy, in essence, it amounts to the effective and optimal utilization of natural marine resources. While the importance of oceans is slowly emerging in policies of most littoral nations, achieving blue economy goals and sustainable management would require extensive cooperation between littorals, not only at governmental levels, but also among all the stakeholders and among the local communities living there. Now, once you appreciate the importance of maritime domain, one of the first thought that comes to you is how to safeguard it. Now, towards the end of the 20th century, it became evident that we are not facing too much of traditional naval confrontation or fights between nations. But a lot of challenges, other challenges are thrown up towards non-conventional challenges, we call it, or low-intensity maritime operations, that is termed. And you have witnessed things like maritime terrorism, piracy, drug and human trafficking, gun running, poaching, and more importantly, illegal, unregulated, unreported, or IUU fishing. And of course, gathering of sensitive seismic and economic data without the other nation coming to know about it. Fishing, which I mentioned earlier, is a $100 billion industry. Globally, illegal fishing is estimated to be about 20 to 30% of the fishing that takes place, amounting to losses estimated between $10 to $23 billion. So you can imagine how all these maritime threats happen. Now, environmental concern, security is another concern, with virtually about 600 million people living in less than 10 meters above sea level worldwide, of which about 1/3 or 200 million live in less than 5 meters above sea level. You can well visualize the impact, and some of you are aware of it, what happens during floods, cyclones, and the tsunami of 2004 will be known to most of these people. Those of us living in coastal areas of India, southern India was very badly affected by it. And it can have an impact on all the maritime activities. And therefore, apart from environment, it also affects our economy. At this stage, I must add that we are also beginning to face cyber attacks on power grids and other systems. So they can trigger accidents in ports and harbors and could impact the entire environment and security. You can imagine if a ship is triggered, an oil tanker, lakhs and hundreds of tons of oil goes in, what can happen to the environment. Now let me shift focus to India. The relevance of maritime sector for modern India was highlighted in the 20th century, in the early part of it, by historian Radha Kumud Mukherjee, and a few decades down the line by Sardar K.M. Panikkar, who was a diplomat, historian, and a strategic thinker. Now, both came to similar conclusion by analyzing a maritime activity linkages from historic times and brought out how effectively we had used the maritime domain for our economic growth in the years gone by, and by neglect of it, how we eventually lost even our independence. In fact, the significance of maritime domain was also well appreciated by our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And it's a less known fact that in April 1955, At a Congress Parliamentary Party meeting, Nehru remarked as to how the people in this great bulk of north of India are what might be said land-minded. They are not so conscious of the sea as the people on the sea coast and the south of India. Nehru also expressed the opinion that came about because we lost at sea due to our lack of conception of sea power. And he came to the conclusion that for a country like India, sea is very important, not only from defense, but from trade point of view. And this vision and thrust that came at the independence resulted in the developments of ports and associated infrastructure on both our coasts, revival of our mercantile marine shipbuilding, and the growth of the Indian Maritime Forces, the Navy and later the Coast Guard. And the Indian Navy actually became a major maritime force with an air arm and an aircraft carrier by 1961. That's when nobody else in Asia had an aircraft carrier. So now if you look at India, we'll also see that it's both a continental as well as a maritime nation. While we have a land territory of a little over 3 million square kilometers and a land border about 15,000 kilometers, our coastline is about 7,500 kilometers. We have 9 coastal states, 4 union territories, and close to 1,200 islands. And all this resulted in our exclusive economic zone, which we can use for our advantage. It's about 2.2 million square kilometers, and another 0.5 million square kilometers will get it soon, moment the continental shelf delineation is over. Now, we were also given a pioneer investor status by the International Seabed Authority and were allocated an area of 1.5 lakh square kilometers in the central Indian Ocean for exploitation of seabed resources. Our scientists have done the preliminary survey and we have retained 75,000 square kilometers for exploitation and returned the other. Now, we also have established interest in Antarctica, where possibly in near future, there would be prospect of resource exploitation. Now, seabed resources, which are the polymetallic nodules, are actually, right now it's very expensive to extract them, but I'm sure in the years ahead, this is going to be a major venture. Now, bulk of our trade is also through the sea, amounting to about 90% by trade volume and about 70% by value. And we have exports are close to $300 billion and imports are about $50 billion. All this includes crude oil, LNG to meet the energy needs. As we grow further, the Indian shipping ports and supporting industries would continue to play a major role. Now, fishing, which I mentioned, is also a major economic activity in India. We have about 2.5 lakhs fishing vessels, generating employment for 15 million people and an income of about $6 billion. Now, you can imagine any illegal fishing in our waters will directly impact our economy. We also have about 44% of our population living in coastal states, of which about 14 to 15% are living coastal districts, with about 50% of them really in lower lying areas. So all this climate change and tsunami and all very badly affects our coastal areas. Now, one good thing that has happened in the 21st century, India very clearly appreciates the importance of the seas for our security and economic prosperity. We were quick to appreciate by the end of 20th century that the world itself is shifting focus from Euro-Atlantic to an Indo-Pacific view, which makes the region around us critically to all major powers, and therefore the need for collaborative approach. This is evident in our policy of SAGAR, or Security and Growth for All, which was initiated by our government, further amplified by our Prime Minister at the Shangri-La Dialogue in 2018. And in keeping with this vision of working together with other nations, we also proposed at the East Asia Summit in Bangkok in November 19, an Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative to manage, conserve, sustain, and secure the maritime domain. Essentially, seeks to create partnership through 7 pillars covering the entire gamut, such as maritime security, technology, and so on, virtually from eastern shores of Africa to the Western Pacific Ocean. Now, our vision in the years ahead in the maritime sector was further enunciated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at his address, the inauguration of the Maritime India Summit in March 21, when he said that India is very serious about growing in maritime sector and emerging as a leading blue economy of the world. Focus areas include upgrading of current infrastructure, creation of next generation infrastructure, which includes port-based smart cities, industrial parks. Government has also brought out the Maritime India Vision 2030, which talks about enhancing safety, security, marine environment protection, and more importantly, use of renewable resource of energy in the maritime sector, which we want to reach a target about 60% of the total requirements by 2030. Let me sum up by saying that 21st century has been very aptly termed a century of the seas across the world. Seas are global commons, interconnected, and there are no borders. The maritime domain is a cornerstone for livelihood of humanity, habitat, resources, and transport up to 90% of intercontinental trade. They are also varied and complex and often cutting across political boundaries, in turn calling for cooperative approach between maritime nations. Now, India, as is brought out, is very much a maritime nation, which our prosperity and development intrinsically linked to the seas. The maritime domain is therefore an area where we need to encourage in-depth study and research activities, and also make our younger generation knowledgeable, and we need to make them well aware of what it is. And such research will only provide scientific and technological support to enhance not only security of the maritime, but to foster the entire sustainable use of the entire maritime domain. I'll stop here. Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to be at this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your profound and thought-provoking perspectives. Now I call upon Dr. N Krishnakumar to share his address.
Oh, thank you, Ananya. Dr. Srinivasan, our respected Vice Admiral, Dr. Muralidharan. It was so nice to listen to Dr. Muralidharan talking on ocean systems. Well, we are all concerned about terrestrial ecosystems and not really about oceans, is what you said. I totally agree with you. The biology of ocean needs to be understood so much. And this decade is rightly called 2010-2030 as a decade of ocean, and terrestrially, the decade of eco-restoration. So, as you rightly said, we need to understand ocean dynamics so much. Professor Rajat Ganguly, Professor Allan Raju, and Madam Chitra Srinivasan, all my respects and pranams to the parents of Dr. Srinivasan, and all senior members, students gathered here. Dr. Srinivasan is a good old friend of mine, and I've been associated with all his good activities. I know his intentions. I know his commitment for the nation, for the future generation. So I'm happy to say that I have also been associated in a small way with him. Listening to him, I found that Praghna in 2 years has not just taken baby steps. He was very humble in his statement. It's definitely taken very big steps and bound for bigger leaps in the years to come. The way it's growing in such a short period, I'm sure it will be able to embrace more students. I'm particularly happy that Praghna is providing leadership to students to improve their research writing skills and publications. And the area covered by them also is very attractive, because in terms of polity and governance, regionalism, geopolitics, history, natural history, and climate change. Now, this is again a very important area. As Vice Admiral, he was touching about maritime. I think nature, natural resource management, and this is something that again we need to really concentrate in the publications in our EJS journal. And of course, very big service is being provided for training, capacity building to students. I've been associated with forestry research for almost 2 decades, and also some understanding of agriculture. Today, if you look into this portal called Vidwan, which is a database for scientists, it's very interesting. We have in India today something like 10,744 scientists in agriculture, 6,700 scientists in biological sciences, 68,740 scientists in the field of engineering, 18,700 scientists in medical sciences, and 16,500 in physical sciences. So all put together, we have a lack of scientists working in various spheres. While China today has something like 7 lakh scientists. India, though in terms of patents and in terms of publications, we stand third in number in terms of publications. Yet, I think we are far behind when it comes to small countries like South Korea, Israel, Europe, and other countries. So there is definitely something wrong with science and technology as to why our young scientists are not able to do their best. There are labs which lack manpower. There are labs which lack machineries. There are labs which lack skills. Now, I've also been responsible for induction of scientists and also a couple of missions to China and other countries. Everybody is looking up only to the resources, the natural resources of India, but they fail to recognize the skill of our country in terms of our manpower and youth power. We are always today very proud of our youth power and potential. We want to empower youth. And so what Dr. Srinivasan is doing and his team, and in fact, through Praghna, is something that needs to be multiplied. This needs multiplier effect. The reason I say this is because we need to really inculcate these skills into youngsters, because not many take in the field of zoology or botany. People are all trying to move out of their main lines of science. Everybody would like to go into some other systems of some easy systems, a computer where jobs are there, they just look to it. But all these sciences need people with scientific temper. And to produce people with scientific temper, I think school is the starting point. It is from there that we should start inculcating what Dr. Srinivasan's team is doing today. All of us are involved with him. I think we should start capturing the youth. When you say youth, even right from students in all these things, writing articles, getting to talk science, getting involved in technology. There are schools doing it. I don't say they are not doing. What really we need to do is capture young minds who are going to become the scientists of tomorrow. It should not happen that scientists suddenly are recruited and not know what to do. I know the number of JRFs, junior research fellows, and the senior research fellows sometimes not getting the right type of mentorship. So what is it that we can do besides giving some sort of encouragement? I think our Praghna should now look for expansion in the following areas. Dr. Srinivasan, I suggest that we be not only motivators, but we have to really have critical mass. I'm happy that we have produced 150 students. And I know in the days to come, we will even capture 1,000 students. But what is really important is let Praghna provide mentorships. Let Praghna continue to provide talent recognition. This is what you're doing today, trying to give awards and rewards. Now, awards and rewards for Indian scientists is something that's really lacking. It is just not enough that we give them a few, for the scientists at least, on important days, some awards like that. But this recognition and incentives, updating for laboratory improvement, training, networking skills, communication skills cannot happen in one day. It is not that suddenly when you induct scientists, like they say that in UPSC exams, you write one of the toughest exams, and then you suddenly become an officer. It's not that administrators or foresters can change forestry. They need a lot of backup support. So this molding of youth from their school days, college days, to become effective managers, they can be scientific managers, they can become scientists. But for all this, we need many more Praghnas. It is just not enough that, and this is a fantastic thought that what Dr. Srinivasan has started. I really salute his parents and Dr. Deshmukh, Madam Deshmukh, who have all even given the name. This country, in my feeling, is that to promote scientific thinking, scientific action, we need to have more such Praghnas, not only in areas of biology, in social sciences, in all other spheres like maritime research, terrestrial research. It is, though we know that 97% of all the water is maritime and 3% is only the fresh water that we talk of. Are we sure that we have so much of knowledge on this 3% water resources? We don't have enough knowledge on the water resources, 3%, our rivers, the lakes, the other sources of springs that we have. So there is so much to be known everywhere. So the areas of research are plenty, but we do not have enough talent pools. Yesterday, day before yesterday, myself, Dr. Srinivasan, we were all discussing on the World Environment Day. You know, India with 26, almost producing so much of plastics. Now, plastic and microplastics are becoming such a serious problem. We need to have a lot of scientists working in these areas to see how best we can provide leadership to control. It's not that we can ban or control plastics in one day, but all this thing probably has to come through what is called as self-molding. I personally see as a biological scientist that in the days to come, Sustainable Development Goals, these 17 goals if you talk of, if 2030, if we are to reach somewhere and take the last man along with us. Today we have so many programs like LIFE and other programs. The 20 nations have been discussing on important issues. Something that we have to address is climate change, biodiversity loss, natural resource loss, pollution, and land degradation. Everywhere there is land degradation. So in all these areas, besides the current area of geopolitics, history, human rights, and the allied subjects that we're talking of, training, capacity building for students have to be done. Publications definitely is a weak area for India, and patenting is again another area. Praghna probably also has to help handhold students as to how one can patent. This patenting and process patenting and product patenting should be started right away as a student, because many of them get stuck only in the time of 57 or 58 years. The scientist, when about to retire, he talks of patenting. While all through his life, he is working, dabbling on something in science. So today, China, you know that they have started a very big program called China 1000 Talent Program, inviting scientists from all over the world to come into the thing. They are giving the best bonuses. They are giving travel concession, houses, large grants. So all these support are being provided to scientists. And what we probably need to do is to nurture young minds to become promising scientists before they enter the pedestals of very huge institutions like ICR, Indian Council of Scientific Research, Indian Council of Forestry Research, Indian Council of Agriculture Research. People are all jumping into this. But before jumping into it and not really, and all that they get is a small orientation program before they start the real science. But the best thing can happen is through organizations like Praghna. So I really foresee a very big role and opportunity for, this is a win-win opportunity for Praghna. And in fact, sometimes we may have to rewrite the objectives to include more things, add a few more additionalities. This is what I say, Dr. Srinivasan. I really feel that we need to really reach out in a bigger way so that there is science and technology in India. But somewhere the science and technology is not really reaching for the good uses. And this is where we all need to come. And today, our Praghna is a composite of the best minds that Dr. Srinivasan has been able to bring in with such scientific forces. We should be able to produce also policy papers as to what should be the future of youngsters who can become scientists. See, I went into one last thing before I leave. You know, molding of scientists should start from a very young age. It is not that I was addressing a group of zoologists. In a Western zoo, if you go, it's not that a zoo director or a zoo animal keeper just becomes somebody like that over a day. He becomes a zoo volunteer, goes every day to the zoo. As a student, he goes n number of times. And then the best of the student is picked up to become an animal keeper, chief animal keeper, deputy director, joint director, and director. But this, in our systems, we only have recruitment, directly pick up and post people. So when we do that, we really also need to see that they have skills. It's fine that anybody can go to any stream, but wherever it is, I think this inclination for science and technology and infusing science and technology in the development process, something is very important. And it is important for all students. They may be from any sectors, but they can be from the economics field, they can be from the English field, they can also learn science, geography, whatever it is. But the understanding of the so-called management of natural resources and science need to be brought in. Only then better innovations can happen in a large and wonderful country like India, which has the best of brains and best of natural resources. Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan, for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Your insightful words are greatly appreciated. You shed light on the scarcity of scientists in India, drawing our attention to this important issue. Additionally, I would also like to express gratitude for your encouragement. Now, I call upon Commodore RS Vasan to share some words.
Vasan sir, can you hear us? He's just joined from the train, sir. He's traveling, but so kind enough to join just now. Let me just check if he's.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. No, I had no to see. Yeah, great.
So we lost you, sir, actually. We lost you due to connectivity, I suppose, sir.
So,
Yes, so the network issues there. Yes, we can understand, sir. You're traveling. It's so sweet of you to join us actually from the train. We understand there is a huge issue insofar as connectivity in a moving train is concerned. Yes. I will just wait for a few seconds. Let's see in case.
yeah. A great job. Keep it up.
I think the connectivity is too bad, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we will. I am just requesting, sir, to just give us a short message so I can read it out. Yes. Ananya, we will move ahead to Professor Ganguly. We'll request him and have the pleasure of listening to.
Okay. Now I call upon Professor Rajat Ganguly to share his address.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivasan and the Praghna Research Center for inviting me to attend today's webinar. Pranam to all the distinguished guests, your parents, and to all the scholars and all the visitors who have joined you today. And of course, congratulations to the center on its second birthday. Although you are a little baby now, you're 2 years old, just out of the crib. Your mission is a very noble one, which is to promote research and learning, especially with regards to young scholars, young minds in India, which is such an integral part of nation building, in a sense, that people can understand the value of research and they are able to acquire the skills that one needs in order to become effective researchers and effective producers of knowledge. Having said that, I would like to touch upon very briefly three things. I won't repeat what some of the other distinguished guests have said. I completely agree with some of the points being made earlier, but I would like to add three things very quickly. Number one is no major power, no superpower has ever existed in the world unless it has had the capacity to produce new knowledge. So research is integral to superpower status. So if India wants to be a superpower, a Vishwa Guru at some point, and we need to seriously look into the kind of new knowledge that as a country we produce. And whether it's in social science, whether it's in humanities, whether it's in the hard sciences, in engineering, we must generate the capability of producing world-class new knowledge from our own society, which would then allow us to quickly become a superpower, over the remaining part of this century. And if you look at the parameters for India, we are the 5th largest economy. We are probably the 4th largest military power in the world. We are projected to become the 3rd largest economy in the next 10-15 years. We will certainly overtake Germany and Japan probably, and we will be below the US and China. So our stature is increasing. We have a very vibrant space program. We have a missile program. We have a modern military which is fast modernizing. So we have all the trappings of a superpower in the making, but unfortunately, we don't have a single Indian university ranked in the top 100 in the world in any of the university rankings that you can look at. So this is something that almost hits you in the face when you look at India from outside, especially somebody like me who lives in Australia, and I have to constantly talk about India and the greatness of India, India's civilizational history, India as the fountain of knowledge, etc., etc. And then somebody comes and tells me, but you don't have a single university in the global top 100. Whether I look at the Times ranking or the QS ranking or the Shanghai ranking, not a single Indian university. What's going on? How can India be a superpower? And as a civilizational superpower, in the sense that, we were this fountain of knowledge at one time, in our historical evolution, without actually developing a culture of doing research, culture of producing new knowledge, and having our universities, our research centers, right at the very top of the global league tables when it comes to universities and research centers. So this is something, as you have said, your mission is to educate people to how to do research, how to write. I think this is a very, very positive step, very welcome step, and I congratulate you for that. May you grow and prosper, and hopefully this will become very, very helpful to India as India grows and prospers. So this is my first point. My second point is, and I say this not with the intention of running people down or not with the intention of denigrating anybody, or in a way criticizing India or how things are done in India. But one thing that struck me in my own journey, I finished my master's in India, and then I went to the US and did my PhD. And I can tell you that when I went to the US, I had my collar a little bit high up because I had this very false sense of ego that I'm a gold medalist, I'm a first class first, I'm the fountain of knowledge. And I landed in the US, and within a week I realized that I actually don't know how to do research. I have no idea of how to actually frame a research question. I have no idea of how to produce new knowledge. And if I don't learn it fast enough, I'm not going to survive in that very competitive environment of American graduate school. Where was the problem? The problem was that throughout my education journey, I had excellent professors, but the system only allowed rote learning. We were just being, bombarded with information. We were trying to memorize as much of information as we can, and then we were expected to go to exams and produce that information as much as we could remember. So there was no critical thinking. There was no possibility of coming up, with one's own sense of a problem. The first step of research is to problematize an issue, to explain the significance of the problem, to frame a research question, to then develop hypotheses that can be tested, to come up with a theoretical design and a research design that would allow you to test those hypotheses, etc., etc. So all these things about research that one needs to learn to become a researcher, we didn't learn, at least I didn't learn when I was a student in India, because all I was expected was to understand knowledge, because I was bombarded with information, to accept that information and produce that in exams. So rote learning. My own sense is, now that I have lived outside India for 30 years, I have been a very active researcher outside India for 30 years, that India needs a cultural shift when it comes to doing research. That we have to have a complete cultural shift from early age, maybe from high school age or maybe from the undergraduate stage. We need to encourage students to do research papers, to write research papers, as they do in the United States. And in the United States, it's so brilliant, because what professors would tell you is, it's not my job to tell you what the problem you should be writing on. You have to figure out what the problem is, and then explain to me why it's a problem worth researching, and then research and find something about the problem. So in other words, train your mind to be a critical thinker. Constantly ask these questions. Ask questions like why, when, where, what, etc. And this is something that requires training. This doesn't happen overnight. And I will give you an example of this. I was absolutely appalled when I heard that the UGC, in all its wisdom, is suddenly now decided that Indian PhD students are required to produce 2 Scopus Index journal papers before they can be given their PhD degrees. And somebody asked me, why has the UGC done this? And I said, whoever has done this probably has no idea of how to do research and how to publish in Scopus Index journals. That, it is not a switch that you turn on and turn off. That there was perhaps this perception that Indian students don't work very hard, or Indian scholars are, they're slagging off. So if we will the stick, if we will the whip and say, you won't get your degree unless you produce 2 research papers, that will do the trick. And all of a sudden, a light bulb will go on, and Indian students will start producing these world-class papers that will be placed in journals which are Scopus indexed, which are in the, print newspaper, which said they developed a culture of ghostwriting, of plagiarism, of all kinds of stuff that students had to go through in order to meet that requirement that I need 2 Scopus papers, otherwise my university will not allow me to graduate. Fortunately, people have now realized that that was the wrong policy, and they have stopped that. But this is what I'm talking about, that you need a serious discussion about developing research skills from a very early age. And this is connected to also our Asian way of life. I was always told that a good child never questions elders in the family. Even if I felt that my elders were wrong, I was not ever encouraged to question my elders. Because, if you start questioning your elders, your parents or your teacher or your guardian, then it is considered to be a sign of, bad behavior in a child. And this is a very Asian value thing. This is not just in India. If you look at the Asian countries, Thailand, Vietnam, etc. I mean, I have Asian students in my class. It is a challenge sometimes to get them to actually ask questions, to open their mouth in class. It is their culture doesn't allow them to do that. Whereas the Australian students, the British students, American students would be in your face saying, I think you're wrong, professor. I don't agree with you, professor. And that is the culture that starts this process of always asking questions. So I think in India, you need to have a cultural reset, hit the reset button, and Pragya can perhaps do that because, you are working with a lot of universities. You need to explain to these university administrators that research is not like a light bulb switch that you can just turn on and turn off whenever you want it. It requires a lot of training from very early childhood, so that people are able to frame those kind of questions, to develop that kind of mindset. And the third thing I would say very quickly before I end is that because of my position, and I get to see a lot of papers, and I can tell you that a lot of papers come to my journal from India. And perhaps because people see my name, they know that I'm Indian. Many would recognize my name as a Bengali, and they probably get attracted to the journal. Plus, the focus of the journal is on security and international affairs. So I get a lot of papers from India. But while that's a positive, which means that people in India are writing papers, and that's great, and they are confident enough now to send those papers to a fairly high-ranked Scopus indexed international journal, many of them don't have any idea of things like plagiarism, things like peer review process, things like what it takes to publish in an international journal, and so on and so forth. So oftentimes I get papers which, when we run it through a plagiarism software, we find 60% plagiarized, 70% plagiarized. And that's the kind of thing that absolutely shatters me. It makes me sad that people are simply not understanding that this is not right. This is not done. And I have heard many stories, and I can tell you many stories which probably you have seen, you have heard in your career. So I won't bore you with that. But it's a serious problem. People are plagiarizing. They are absolutely copying and pasting. And they are saying that's okay. We have never been told that that's not okay. So something is going wrong somewhere. That research training is not happening. People are not being told that when you use somebody's ideas or when you use somebody's words, you need to acknowledge that this is not yours, and you cannot pass it off as yours. So that's one. The other thing which I find often students telling me, I recently had a case where this guy told me that I must have a publication somehow because my job depends on it. If I don't get a publication, I will lose my job. So there was an expectation that because the paper has now come to my journal, I would somehow make it possible for this paper to get published so that this guy can have his job. And I had to explain to him that that's not the way it's going to work because this paper is 60% plagiarized. So I cannot accept that. So I think I'm sensing that somewhere things are going a little bit off the track, that people are taking shortcuts and nobody's stopping them. Nobody's telling them that these are not the right things to do. And when you do that, and I had to tell one person that academia is such a small community, if you develop a reputation of sending papers to journals which are like this, very soon you will reach a point where nobody will actually believe anything you write, because they will say that everything probably is plagiarized anyway. So I think as a research center, when you're talking about research, this is one aspect that I think you need to really coach the students about what is the right way of doing research and what is the wrong. I think one of the earlier speakers talked about the problem of supervision. And I fully agree that there is a serious problem of supervision. I know of one case where a faculty member at a very prestigious university in India supervised a master's student, a master's thesis. And then once the student graduated, finished, she went on to do a PhD somewhere else. After 2 years, she found that her master's thesis has been published in the name of a supervisor. And these are some of the corrupt practices, the malpractices which are going on in Indian academia, particularly in social science. I don't know about the sciences, particularly in social science, which are absolutely unacceptable. These won't happen in Western countries. And if it happens, then people will lose their jobs. They'll be blacklisted for life. That, you take somebody's thesis and you publish it as your own without, letting the student know. And this student came to know about this because the student found the thesis published as a book and recognized this as, as one's own thesis. I mean, imagine how bad this is. And when the professor was confronted by this news, all the professor said was, I needed a publication, so this was the easiest way for me to publish. So if professors are doing that, if supervisors are creating this kind of bad behavior, bad culture, how do you then expect the student to then tell you that, no, I've learned and I'm going to be good? You can't be good if your guru is bad. So we have to fix the guru before we fix the student, fix the shishya. And I think you have a problem there, that people are not understanding the process, but then you also have some really rotten apples in the system who have no business being in the system. And one last point I think might be helpful, as you do this. Look, my sense, because I studied for up to my postgraduate level in India, and I'm Indian, and I come back to India every year, and I go and give lectures everywhere. I have often found that in India, especially in the social sciences, a lot of writing is not based on evidence. In the West, for example, you do evidence-based research. You can frame a hypothesis, and as long as you have evidence to support your case, people will say, okay, that's fine. I may not agree with it, that's okay, but at least you have got a case. In India, what I found was, in my last 30 years of experience, is that a lot of research is actually ideologically driven. So you are ideologically blinkered from the beginning, which means there is a researcher bias entering into research, whether you like it or not. I'll give you an example to prove my point. A few years ago, University of Melbourne was doing a symposium in JNU, which is India's flagship social science, international relations university. So we were in the School of International Studies. I was invited to come from Australia. So along with colleagues from Melbourne, I traveled to Delhi. My paper was on India-China. So basically the argument of the paper was that the China threat to India is real. India cannot trust the Chinese. Don't trust the Chinese. Be always on your guard, etc., etc. So as soon as I finished, for the next 15 minutes, I was mercilessly attacked by everybody in the room, professors, students, scholars, you name it. And some of that attack was very personal. And it was for 15, 20 minutes. And I kept quiet. I didn't utter a word. I just kept quiet for 20 minutes and let these people say whatever they wanted to say. And the gist of what they said was, you are absolutely wrong. China is not a threat to India. China is a nice country, blah, blah, blah. So once they finished, once they ran out of energy after 20 minutes, I asked a simple question. I said, okay, so you falsify my conclusions, which is good. So you have evidence, which I don't have, which basically falsifies my claim that China is a threat. You don't think China is a threat. Now, have you actually done evidence-based research? Can you produce that research paper so that I can read and learn? And I can understand what evidence you have from which you concluded that China is not a threat? There was pin drop silence in the room because not a single one had done one line of research. It was all ideological. I am a leftist, I am a communist, I am this, and therefore I cannot accept that China is a threat. China is a nice country. Now, if you approach research from that sort of ideological blinkeredness, like, you put the blinkers on a horse. The horse cannot see the sides, it can only see front. How can you be an effective researcher? What is the value of that knowledge that you are producing? So you can write 20 papers saying China is a very lovely country, has no threat to India, doesn't, threaten India in any way. Our 20 soldiers who died in Galwan, they basically slipped on the rock and fell down to their deaths. They were not beaten with clubs, anything. You can write anything. And you are ideologically blinkered. What's the value of that research? So research, for it to be of any use, has to be evidence-based, and it has to inform decision-making. It has to inform policy-making. In other words, there has to be value of research. What is the point of doing research unless the research adds any value? If India has to grow and become a superpower, India needs to have new knowledge of doing things across many sectors. And if research that India is producing doesn't do that, doesn't allow that, then what's the value of that research is the question. By contrast, if you go and look at the United States as an example, in the United States, it's very common that when presidents assume office, any president assumes office, they often tap into people in some of the top universities to come and work for the administration. So Ashton Carter, for example, who was defense secretary during the Obama years, Ashton Carter was full professor at Harvard Kennedy Center, right? Kennedy School of Government. So when Obama became president, he called Ashton Carter and said, I want to tap into your expertise, your knowledge, and can you come and work for my administration? And it's very common in the United States for top faculty to be given leave of absence if they are required to come into government as advisors, as policymakers, or even as, Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State or whatever it is. And there is therefore this healthy interchange between academia, which is producing the knowledge, and government, which wants to use the knowledge in the way it governs, in the way it forms policy, right? Do you see that happening in India? Very little. I hardly see any Indian academic who's seriously taken by government and the government says, come and please give us an advice. And I will end by telling you one story. When we had this problem with China in Galwan, and then there was this tension with Pakistan, I can tell you that I have not actually read a single paper coming out of India that is a watershed paper when it comes to understanding Pakistan or when it comes to understanding China. Not one. I've read papers coming out written by Indians, but not from India. They are based in the US or they're based in the UK or they're based in Australia. Some of the papers are fantastic and it adds to your knowledge. You learn something from that, but not one from India. And my question is, why not? Where are our Pakistan experts? Where are our China experts? What is the new thing they are telling us that would help us to understand China, that would help us to understand Pakistan or our neighborhood or our Indian Ocean or anything for that matter? And there is none. And the biggest evidence of that, and I was telling this to a PhD student this morning, the biggest evidence of that is the citation metrics. India produces a lot of books, a lot of papers, a lot of book chapters. How many of those are actually cited? You can go to Google Scholar and you can run the names of Indian scholars in India. Take the 100 names in that field. People are. I want them. Do a Google search with their name. Most of them don't even have 100 citations, even though they have lots of publications. Most of those publications, nobody reads them. Who's publishing them? Where are they disappearing? And they are all professors, because you become a professor not because of your talent, but because how many years of service you have had. So everything is connected. My basic point is we need a cultural shift about research. We should stop this rote learning nonsense that we have been doing for so long. We need to look at the gurus who are supervising our students. What message are they giving? Are they the rotten apples? And if they are the rotten apples themselves, how can they then produce good apples? And this culture, everything being ideological. If I'm a communist, I don't want to hear you. If I'm a right wing, I don't want to hear your left wing views. So how can you function like that when you are producing research? So I want to end on that note. I'm sorry if I have said things that probably upsets a few people, but this is the perception from outside India, looking at India. And my take is that for India to become a superpower, we really have to be a knowledge power. And that knowledge has to be produced indigenously and it has to be world class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For your insightful words. And you also highlighted the how there is a dearth of Indian institutions in top global rankings. And also you highlighted issues in the Indian education system, specifically in the research field. It is truly thought-provoking. Now I will request Dr. Srinivasan to share a message by Commodore RS Vasan.
Yeah. Thank you, Ananya. But before I play out a short 1 minute long message that Commodore Vasan has sent from his train, I would like to especially thank Professor Ganguly, because we have known each other for some time and we are good friends. And I took the liberty of asking him to share his perspectives, not just as a professor, but as an editor-in-chief also, because the perspectives that come from a person with that tons of 35 years of experience in the field of not only teaching but also in publishing and guiding students is very important for these young students who are here on the forum. And I'm sure when we upload this recording, it will be useful to others also. Some of the points which he has touched upon, especially, I'll just take only one point. Said, whether you are right wing or left wing, it does not matter, but you need to look at the other side's point of view. In simple words, the whole game of research is objectivity. You have to be objective. And I'm very happy to tell you, sir, Dr. Dua is here, Commodore Deshmukh is here in our humble, program of internship of all students. This is one of the lessons which we keep driving into their heads. We make them ask why. We make them give the explanation. And we make them explain their explanation as to how it fits into an answer as the why, for the why. Okay, some of our interns, in fact, all of our interns, I will say, like Anaswara, who's going to conduct the next part of the program, just to give you an example, has wanted to do same, China, Taiwan, which is a very favorite topic. I'm sure all of us are aware. So I just prompted her. I said, yeah, everybody talks about China, Taiwan from the point of view of protecting democracy in the world. Fantastic. We must protect democracy. But what about China's own version of its one China principle? Have we really understood what do the Chinese mean by one China principle? We are only conveying our perceptions on one China principle, but what about their own perceptions? Would you mind looking into that? She has done a good job, sir. I'll share that paper also with you. Okay, she has done a good job, including factoring the so-called strategic ambiguity of United States of America and how it plays into this one China principle. A very interesting paper she has produced. So I just give you one example. Our interns have been taking off-track approaches to the research, and I do hope that taking cues from your talk, we will be able to motivate some more to do that kind of a research. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now just play that 1 minute long message which Commodore Vasan has so graciously recorded in his this thing. I hope you will be able to hear it. So can you can you get the volume, sir? No? I'm sorry, I must have done something wrong. 1 second, sir. I think I'm pretty bad in doing this on the line. It's a one minute 13 seconds long message in which he has also sent the text in which he has expressed his happiness for the program that Praghna is conducting. And he's also expressed his happiness that Praghna is deeply associated with C3S. We've been conducting a lot of research, writing workshops. We have conducted 3 already. We are planning for the 4th. And a dozen odd research orientation talks, which are not just for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, they are 3 or 4 hours long, actually. And those workshops were 3 days long. Okay, 3 days long. So he has expressed his happiness about our association, and he has conveyed his heartiest wishes for the contributors of those 5 papers which are under consideration for the research prize. Okay, and he has conveyed his regards to each and every one of you. Thank you very much, sir. I will now request Ananya to continue. Yes, Ananya.
Thank you, sir. We deeply appreciate Commodore RS Vasan for sharing his words and sparing his valuable time. Now I would invite Anaswara to take over and proceed with the second part of the program.
Thank you, Ananya. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Anushra Joy, Research Associate with Praghna. And in this second part of the program, I will first introduce and invite Mrs. Chitra Srinivasan, Director of Praghna, to provide a brief about the Praghna Research Prize. I'll just give a brief introduction. Mrs. Chitra Srinivasan is an educator by passion, having served as a teacher of sciences, principal of Air Force schools across India, the vice principal of Chennai Public School, and a lecturer on communication in a prestigious college, now a deemed university, for the past 2 decades in her professional life. She is also a special educator. She has conducted workshops for teachers on teaching children with learning disabilities in regular classrooms. As a volunteer teacher, she has worked with a National Association for the Blind and assisted in creating teaching material for visually challenged children. Ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Anushra. Thank you so much. Tishtata, Jagratha, Prapya, Varan Nibodhata. Arise, awake, seek the best of men and learn. This should be the ultimate goal of every human being to achieve. Good evening, Honorable Chief Guest, distinguished invitees, revered parents, and dear students. The seed for Praghna Research Centre was laid 2 years back. We are entering into a 3rd year. This sapling could only flourish with the constant reinforcement from mentors and researchers alike that paves way to achieve Praghna's objective to promote scientific temper and research in all disciplines of social sciences amongst students and scholars. To achieve this objective, we are working in 3 dimensions. We have established publishing platform through a journal that adheres to best practices in scientific publications. We specially encourage students and research scholars to avail this platform. The second aspect is Praghna conducts research writing programs for think tanks and universities in an interactive manner for research scholars to understand and apply scientific approach for publications. The third initiative is Praghna, along with DRaS, conducts internship programs where a structured and informal interactive method is adopted to mentor students to undertake research programs. As we enter into the threshold of 3rd year, we have initiated 2 prizes in political science and historical cultural studies to encourage and promote research by students. This humble endeavor will henceforth be an annual feature. We request our august audience and distinguished mentors to encourage our small initiatives so as to promote qualitative research amongst student fraternity. Now I request Ms. Anuswara to introduce our jury, who have painstakingly gone through each and every paper so as to contribute in helping Praghna to institute the prizes in our parents' name. Thank you for lending me your ears. Namaste. All yours, Anuswara. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving the brief introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege now to introduce our distinguished jury for the prizes and I invite them to share their perspectives. It is now my privilege to introduce Professor G. Jayachandra Reddy. Professor G. Jayachandra Reddy is the Director and Chairman, Board of Studies and Founder Director of UGC Center for Southeast Asia and Pacific Studies, Shri Venkateshwara University, Tirupati. He has published 43 research papers and 16 books, besides participating in 63 national and international seminars. He was one of the members of ICWA delegation to Vietnam in 2017 and to Asia New Zealand Foundation Wellington in 2019. He is the editor-in-chief, Asia Pacific Journal of Social Sciences, and editor Area Studies, a journal International Studies and Analysis. He served as visiting research fellow at Manila University, the Philippines, Research Institute for Oriental Cultures, Gakushin University, Japan. He is an awardee of the Australian India Council Fellowship, Government of Australia. He served at the Vietnamese Institute for Indian and Southwest Asian Studies, Hanoi, as a visiting fellow and visiting scholar. China Foreign Affairs, University, Beijing. He was an awardee of Vietnam National Day Award by Embassy of Vietnam, and conferred Editorial Excellence Award by International Institute of Organized Research. He's a founder, secretary, International Society for Asia Pacific Studies and the Association for Area Studies in India. Dr. Reddy, as a secretary of the drafting committee of the proposal submitted to the World Bank on Development and Innovative Fund for the Faculty Development and GIS Laboratory. He also served on a committee of the Malacca University collaboration with the US universities. Now I would call upon Sir to give in a few words. Sir, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, and good evening to all of you. The first instance, my congratulations to the entire team of Praghna Research Center for their instinct commitment in continuing the research activities. Here, I got surprised year by year. It is only 2 years of young research innovation initiative, but I have seen much more than what I expected from this small initiative, because there are many things. If you consider it as a think tank, publishing a journal and labeling as a chief editor or something, that ends the matter. Wherever you go, you can tell that I am the editor or editor-in-chief, something XYZ. But what is happening here, apart from this regular activities, actually what needs to be happened in an educational institutions like universities, where they are supposed to conduct parallelly academic and research activities. It is happening in the Praghna Centre, and much more interactions are being done, not only producing research, identifying the research issues. These research issues, not the topics for different research. There are many issues like financial issues, quality of research. There are many challenges within the research framework. As Professor Ganguly has pointed out many things. What are the major and minor challenges in bringing out potential research? To my surprise, all his valid point, what he raised, it is to be addressed at a national level. I could not find, I don't want to criticize some XYZ here, I could not find some clues in the huge policy of new educational policy. In India particularly, let me take a couple of minutes, not much. In India, what is research? The definition of research: applying for a grant, getting it sanctioned, and maintaining the duration. If it is 2 years period, you kill the time 2 years. If it is 3 years, whatever it may be, technically, all the technical parts we need to attend, not the research. Except research, as a teacher, I am the first witness for all these false procedures of Indian research. I can't say 100%. But here, what is happening? These policies, India is very good in framing policies, but very poor in implementing policies. We have good number of policies, but we are not following it. Like any other department, other area of policy making, in education also we do have. Yes, let me come to the point. Applying for a project, research project, getting funding, and killing the stipulated time. And the funding agency also not serious about the project report, but they are very, very serious about the statement of expenditure and the utilization certificate. Even a scholar, by chance, he could not find time to produce bills and XYZ, though he is producing beautiful world-class research piece of work, that organization will not spare him to pay money back because he is not meeting the guidelines framed by the funding agency. But the funding agency completely ignoring the output of the research, and they are very serious about the submission of bills, meeting the obligations of auditing, not academic auditing, financial auditing, closing the file. Yes, I am the first witness. In UGC or XYZ, many funding agencies, particularly in social sciences, they are spending crores of rupees. I could not find a single paper which has been published out of the spending of these crores of rupees in the name of research projects. Is it not academic? Is it not activity in nature, crime? Not killing the XYZ is the crime. Here we are killing the country itself, the spirit of the country, the direction of development, the work culture of the country. So we are spoiling. So this is the right time to realize all the governments, not one, we cannot blame XYZ, a teacher, a student, a government, or an institution. Altogether, only one thing is required. It is accountability, personal accountability, teacher accountability, institutional accountability, which includes everything. Once you feel that I am accountable to the country, there everything comes. Financial discipline will come, work culture will come, and quality of research will come, whatnot. This commitment towards accountability should be nurtured across all the departments and citizens of the country, not only research. So, I don't want to take much of this time. Let me stop here. I think I want to give a gist in support of Professor Ganguly's argument. Yes, I absolutely agree with you, sir. Certainly, we need to take certain steps to come out of this. The most unwanted approaches or work culture of the country. Next, coming to, as I should be thankful to Dr. Srinivasan and his team for giving me a thankless job of becoming or being one of the jury members, because it is very, very difficult task. Ranking, one is the top, the other one is 2, the other one is 3 or 4, 5, giving, making it a panel or ranking the papers. if something goes wrong, we have to feel for a long time. Yeah, we did wrong. Yes, injustice has been done knowingly or unknowingly. So, whatever it may be, being teachers, it is a part of the duty to evaluate the research. Yes, Dr. Srinivasan has sent me 3 papers. All the 3 papers are well written, but as what we discussed, the subject is very interesting. Selection of the title, our area of research, everything is good. Local government, international geopolitics, and yes, but the problem is research methodology. What Professor Ganguly was arguing. Of course, they are young buds of scholars. No need of in hurry, but this is the time to provide some sort of coaching or some sort of internship to guide them or to see that they should be properly trained. It is not not that this competition we have given first rank for given a prize, not that he is master in doing research. It is only beginning. The first prize of this paper is nothing but he has been selected to do research, not that he is master in research. That XYZ student has been selected that you are suitable to do the research, encouraging after giving an award or something, appreciation, certificate of appreciation, something. So I don't mind to say till today, I have been learning different innovative research methods. Yes, doing research, developing subject, in-depth knowledge, these are all different things. What is happening at international level? What are the updates? Yes, what are the financial commitments? What are the, how can we utilize the technology? The technology matters much. Otherwise, Dr. Srinivasan is not having crores of rupees in the bank in the name of Praghna Research Center. It is all the technology that helped all of us to work together to see that we are producing something that is good for the country to the best of our efforts. So whatever we did, it is only beginning. I wish all the very best for the Praghna Research Center and its team. And definitely, very soon we will see the expansion of research activities with further, with great commitment. And very soon we will see huge. I propose to have a conference also, online conference. So that is my area of interest. Here, spending is less, the impact. Generally, the journals where we published, what is the impact? Here also, today we are talking, what is the impact? That means how we, our talk, our discussion, our deliberations, how it has been impacting the concerned group or individuals. That is most important. With this, I sincerely thank Dr. Srinivasan and his team for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your profound words. I would continue the program, and I would like to introduce Professor Allan John. He is an alumni of Montfort School, Yercaud, and Loyola College, Chennai, with a BA in Economics and MA Social Work, specializing in Human Resource Management. He retired as a faculty member of the head PG Department of Social Work, Sacred Heart College, Tirupattur, after 33 years as a distinguished academician. He is a member of academics body Pan India, a corporate trainer and motivational speaker. I would like sir to please come forward and give in a few thoughts.
Thank you, Anaswara. And thank you, Srinivasan and Chitra, for this opportunity of being here. First of all, congratulations on your second year of Praghna. It already seems a very long time. And having so many defense experts on this panel here, I feel so defenseless right now because I belong to the social welfare as a social scientist. And it was a real learning experience for me today to hear from our distinguished speakers who all came back onto the same point of encouraging research. And we in social sciences always encourage evidence-based research. And the evidence is sitting here right in front of us with Dr. Srinivasan. Because what he studied with us as a student, we see him translating it now into real life. And with what he studied, is not content. He's carrying on that research. We believe in the cause-effect relationships, especially in social sciences. And right through the three speakers that I heard this evening, we had the thread running through about encouraging research and research skills. Thank you, Srinivasan, for your confidence again in having me a second time here on the jury. It was my pleasure going through the three papers that were presented. It was a real learning experience. All the three papers were well researched, well documented, well written, but all three, I think, ended up with the problem of a concrete conclusion. Because when you're given the mic or when you are given the opportunity to write a piece of paper, the conclusion is the most important thing. It should leave your audience and your readers convinced in what you were trying to convey right through the paper. The three papers were good, and as a first effort, it was, and like Dr. GJ Reddy was saying, it's difficult for a jurist to rank people 1, 2, 3, because all were equally good. But then we had to do our scoring, and we presented the scores to Dr. Srinivasan, and I'm sure he will announce the winners as it were. But I think this is not just winning and losing, it's to encourage among your interns and students in general the desire for scientific inquiry, because a lot of things are happening around us in the world. And when we listen to also Admiral talking about the maritime problems that we had, or even like Dr. Ganguly was talking about his part of the research, and I was really taken up by what he had to say about his 3 points, especially the plagiarism that happens in research today, and also the problems that happens, the relationship between the supervisor and the one who's writing the article or doing the research. And all of it came back to one thing that is close to our hearts, that is evidence-based research. I think Srinivasan was just glancing at the clock, and my time tells me that it is 6:55 and 7 o'clock is the closing time. Thank you very much for this opportunity of being here, and I look forward to sharing whatever expertise we have with our interns as the days go by. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Now I would call upon Professor N. Balasubramaniam. Dr. Balasubramaniam is a distinguished professor of history. He retired as a professor and head of the Department of History in CBM College at Commodore. He also served in the Board of Studies of Bharatiya University and has guided scores of PhD scholars. Some of his former students are from among senior serving officers of the IAS and IPS. Apart from his own innumerable publications concerning historical studies, Professor Balu, as he is affectionately called, has taught dozens of successful candidates in civil service examinations as part of his passion for the progress of younger generation. He specializes in Indian history and has lectured in a variety of scholarly forums and conferences. He's a member of the South Indian History Congress. And I would like to call upon Dr. Balasubramaniam to give in a few words.
Thank you, Joy, for the nice words. Dr. Srinivasan and Chitra Srinivasan are doing excellent work to promote research in social sciences. I learned from the distinguished scholars 3 valuable points. Vice Admiral Muralidharan stated on maritime history. In this connection, I would like to suggest the recent research on maritime by Dr. Kevo Matthew, Sanjay Sanyal, John Key, Dr. Jaishankar and Shankari Manian, along with R.K. Mukherjee and K.M. Panikkar. I thank him for exposing the importance of the maritime trade and history. I thank Dr. Krishnakumar for the encouragement of research in sustainable technology. I very thankful to Professor Rajat Ganguly, who brought actually the light and dark side of history, particularly historical research in India. I'm really very happy to learn from him the 10 points he had highlighted on research methodology. I would like to add, when Nehru was the Prime Minister, he came down to Chennai to consult Professor Satyanarayana on Indo-China relations in person. I believe he was the only academician who was consulted by the then Prime Minister for discussing the problem. As he said, in Western countries, the academicians are invited, particularly in the United States, by the presidents. I am very thankful to him for highlighting the malpractices in research that exist in Indian universities. Ideological blinkers is a suitable word he got used. I'm really thankful to him for highlighting me. I thank the parents of Dr. Srinivasan and Chitra Srinivasan for promoting the research attitude among the young scholars. As Professor Reddy and Professor Allan said, it is really difficult to judge which is good and which is not good. There are 2 good papers on history and historical research. Just we suggested the further readings to the students, and both papers are good, and it is really difficult to select which is good and which is actually not good. Both are written in the with good perspectives, historical perspectives. So I thank Dr. Srinivasan and his team for giving me an opportunity to be the jury. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I will now I will give a brief introduction in regard to Shri Saurajit Ghosh. Saurajit has a master's degree in commerce from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. In his earlier avatar in the corporate world, he interned at United Bank of India HO Dalhousie and worked as a transfer pricing assistant at Price Water Copper Service Delivery Center, Kolkata. He was a member of Bengali Literary Society during college. He loves to write poems in Bengali, some of which have been published in the Bengali magazine Suktara. After having worked in the corporate sector, He found his call in the Buddhist studies and enrolled for his current PhD. He's a research scholar of global PhD program at Nalanda University, Rajgir. He is fluent with Pali and Sanskrit and bases his research on original Buddhist texts in these languages. He is a former Gurukul fellow at Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He is interested in archaeology, gender studies, and wants to pursue a career and research in Buddhist studies. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to call upon Shri Saurajit Ghosh to talk, say a few lines about the program.
First of all, good evening to all of you, and thank you, Srinivasan sir and Praghna, for having me for the first time. And I think all the points raised by the eminent professors, the scholars, and they are perfectly fine and very much relevant given the current situation of Indian academics. I had a different background. I was trained in hardcore economics and finance in my initial days, where I felt a huge concern about the gender studies and in developmental sector and in sustainable development. And I was, as an early career researcher, I was influenced by Amartya Sen and German economist E.F. Schumacher, who coined the genre of Buddhist economist. That means how to make sustainable development and economic results much more human oriented, applied. So in the year of 2016-18, I joined Nalanda International University for the first time, which was a very special experience for me because this was a dream of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to revive the ancient seat of learning, the Asian Renaissance, as we call it. And now I am enrolled as the pioneer PhD scholar in the global program, where I work on gender studies in religions. My entire work is based on Himalayan anthropology. That means I do a lot of fieldwork in the entire Himalayan belt in the nunneries, seeing how the age-old practices that existed from 2,500 years ago, how they are taking shape in the modern monastic sacred spaces. And I prove my evidence both through interviews, field data, as well as reading of original texts. Now, I have been given a chance by Srinivasan sir to read the paper on Buddhism and environment, which I find the concept very fascinating. But yes, I do agree with the thing that all the previous scholars said, that we should much focus on methodology. Methodology and proper literature review is must for any research, because we need to know what has been going on in the West, because for a long time we have laid much more focus on the Western philosophical traditions. What about the Nalanda philosophical tradition? Nagarjuna talking about Shunyata or infinity for the first time. And these are the actual heritage of our country, and the Buddhist philosophy and everything. We should tap into these principles to see the sustainable development and how to protect environment. So thank you. Yes, as far as publication is concerned, I seriously think that there is nothing in research without publication. And communication is must in case of research. So I have recently published with London School of Economics and Political Science and Tibet Policy Journal, where I've extensively seen that how these nuns, right from Theri Sanghamitra, have contributed towards the international diplomacy of our country. And we can call it especially the contribution of Theri Sanghamitra as one of the earliest women diplomats of our country towards the peace building mission under the era of Emperor Ashoka. So talking about that, I would like to cut it short now. And I'm looking forward to listen to the young scholars who contributed in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, now I call upon the contributors for the research prize to present the highlights of the work. I will call upon them one by one. First, I would like to call upon Jyoti Tripathi. I'll just give a brief about her. So Jyoti Tripathi did her master's in political science and is working as a counselor and researcher. The title of the paper is PRIs and Political Participation of Women, History, Development and Present. Jyoti, please come forward and give a brief about your paper.
Namaste to everyone. Actually, I can say I'm born researcher. I can say wherever I go, I saw different things, and I want to see the different aspects why the thing is look like that. So when I did this research about the PRI and meaning the political participation of women in PRI, so I go through different literature reviews, and I find the development of local administration, how it develops, like in Vedic period and in different eras, and then Indian Constitution. I find every time big changes came, but when I want to see the women's political participation, then I can say I hardly find the local leaders. I find few of them, those who are winning candidate or those who are contested. But being a leader, being a local administrator, I can say it's really hard to find them. So when I did this research while I was doing my postdoctoral work, I find yes, women were coming up with this kind of sense. Okay, we are we have to move forward. We have to be a decision maker. We can take a decision while we are doing something, either at home or going outside. So they just think about all those like they are, yes, I can say they were overloaded with the work, because they are actually the I can say the holding of the family responsibilities. They have to manage their family, and when they are going out, so their work was like, if it's like 80%, they have to manage their work at home, even at outside. So what I observed while I doing research in this, that yes, they need some support from the government. The first thing, they need appreciation whatever they are doing in a childhood step, I can say, and even a kind of small trainings they need. And now this is the revolution time of media, so I can say yes, definitely they are using mobiles, so they need a good kind of apps to use those apps during their work tenure. And what I find there that they were definitely looking at the development of their own region, own local areas. So I feel yes, they need some changes. So government should think about their issues, and policies can be very, very meaning government should think about the local policies, because we whatever the meant is like very different from the grassroots and the upper level things. So there is a big difference. They were not having lots of things to perform their duties in a well manner. So if the government will give them a bit support, definitely they can do a very, very better in the local governance.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Please stick to only the highlights of your research paper. If you would like to speak about any recommendation that you have made, please limit it to just, all of you, all the 5 of you, please take not more than 2 minutes, because your full papers have already been read by everyone.
Yeah, so sorry, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anaswara?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jyoti. Next, I would like to call upon Shubham Kumar Kanu. I'll just give a brief. Shubham Kumar Kanu is a PhD research scholar, JRF, Department of Political Science, Faculty of Arts, and his paper is the role of cooperative farming and emerging technologies in solving critical problems of India's agricultural sector. Shubham, you can speak.
Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you so much,
Yes, you are
Miss Anaswara Joy, madam, for giving me this opportunity. A very pleasant evening to you all. Respected Group Captain R. Srinivasan sir, Founder Director of Praghna Centre for Research, Honorable Chief Guest of Honor, Special Invitees, respected jury members, commodores and commanders, other dignitaries, and audiences present here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to say something in front of you all. Indeed, it is really a matter of pride for me, honor for me for being here and saying something in this valuable platform. Let me come to the point, the topic which I have selected for this Praghna Annual Research Award. The title of my article is The Role of Cooperative Farming and Emerging Technologies in Solving Critical Problems of India's Agricultural Sector. Now, the reason why I have selected this topic for this research award is that the very fact that in India, the majority of the population still reside in the rural areas, and they are heavily dependent on the agricultural sector. And the structure of Indian agriculture is not convenient to the farmers. This is the very fact. And also given the fact that the population of India is increasing at a much higher rate than the development of agriculture in India. Now, if it goes on like this, then there is a possibility that it may lead to the food security crisis in the near future in India, number one. Second is the income of the population in India is increasing at a much higher rate than the development of agriculture. Now, again, if it goes on like this, then it may lead to the crisis called the inflation in India. So therefore, if we are really thinking about the self-reliant India or Atmanirbhar India, or the inclusive growth of India, then without taking into consideration the agricultural sector, it is not possible at all. Now, it is in this background that I have taken this particular topic, that this agricultural sector, the development of the agricultural sector, very, very important for the development of India. Now here, the current agricultural system, as I said, that it is not convenient for the farmers of India. Why? Because currently it is the APMC system, or Agriculture Produce Market Committee system, which governs the agriculture in India. Now it is completely outdated in India, and there is a need of bringing some sort of reformation in it. Now, this is not something new that I am talking about. Throughout since the last 2 decades, the debates is going on what can be the better alternative in the agricultural sector. Now, here in this regard, there are 4 alternatives that I have found. What are the alternatives? The first is the cooperative farming, second is the contract farming, third is commercial farming, and the fourth is cooperative farming. Now, if we go into much deeper in all these 4 models, which I have spoken about, we will find that we can categorize this 4 model into 2 categories. What are the 2 categories? The first is the corporatization of agriculture through contract farming, that means the contract farming, and the second is commercialization of agriculture through cooperative farming. Cooperative becomes very important. Now, if we look at the context of India, we will find that the contract farming or the law, which was also, the proposed by the government very recently. Now, the context of India doesn't permit, or there is something which is lacking, due to which the contract farming is not possible at all in India. Right? Now, this is why this is not possible. I have written very meticulously in my paper. The second alternative which I have found is the cooperative farming, as given the fact that much of the land in India are in fragmented form. Right now, when the land is in fragmented form, then the cultivation, then the selling, then the transportation of grains all become very, very difficult inconveniences for all the farmers. Right. So here, if we adopt, I'm summing up. If we adopt the cooperative farming method, then it would be very it would be very helpful for the Indian farmer, and it would drive toward the inclusive growth of India. Now, for that, I have proposed some suggestions as well. Now, it is not in spite of talking about the cooperative farming, now due to some other challenges which has came up in the 21st century, that is the global warming, water crisis, land crisis, and all. We need to, adopt some other methods as well.
Subhav, excuse me. We are not expecting you to cover your full paper.
Okay, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. Only talk about, you have already explained the purpose of
yes, sir,
the paper. So please limit yourself only to one thought.
30 minutes at most. Okay. So
30 minutes.
30 seconds. Sorry, 30 seconds. So I have gone through with the technologies which are used in other countries, and whether can we adopt those technological methods in agriculture in India. What are the agricultural technology which are used in other countries? It is satellite technology, drone, big data and AI technology, gene editing, robotics, blockchain, 3D printing, nanotechnology, synthetic biology. Now, if we adopt these technologies in Indian agriculture, then we can improve our agriculture and we can take India forward at the level of the the Vishwa Guru or self-reliant or Atmanirbhar Bharat. So this is what I have mentioned in my paper. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubham. Now I call upon Arushi Singh. So Arushi Singh has done her master's from Department of Geopolitics and International Relations at MAHE, and her paper, the title of the paper is Great Power Competition in the Gulf of Guinea. Arushi, please limit the time and please continue. Arushi, are you there?
I think Arushi has left because of some other commitment. She has just messaged me. You can go to the next person.
Okay, sir. Okay, now I would call upon Saurajit Ganguly. She is a student of Masters in South Asian University, Pondicherry South Asian Studies, Pondicherry University, and the title of her paper is Keeping Track of History: The Relevance of Oral Traditions and Material Memory from a Feminist Perspective. Sarasi, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope I'm audible. So I'll just give a brief outline of my work. As my title states keeping track of histories, oral traditions, material memory, and feminist perspectives are the three angles that I have used in my paper. I have taken an interdisciplinary approach between history as well as from a social angle, and including the feminist angle in conflict studies. So this work is actually based on my it's kind of a personal research that I have found when I was studying my own family histories, and the paper includes 3 case studies from very close sources. So the idea that I have addressed in this paper is how oral histories are being implemented in the study of history as a whole, and it's not just limited to what we understand history by dates and numbers. It has to be the stories of people and who they are, their identities, involved in studying what times they have lived in and how it has shaped the contemporary stories that we know. From a more like theoretical perspective, I think this research steps into anthropology and the study of how women should be placed in the angle of conflict studies, because it is through personal histories that we can reach a higher standard of how mainly the idea of history, how it should change when we take it from a personal perspective rather than a whole, from a social to a personal level. And in the conclusion, I have stated that the use of intangible as well as tangible material memory can be a good source to start from, because after all, I think studying personal histories becomes more important when we are trying to place any kind of individual stories in a sociological perspective. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I call upon Raghavi, who's a research scholar, Department of Political Science, Sharda School of Humanities and Social Sciences. The paper is Protecting Environment Through the Teachings of Buddha. May I call upon Raghavi?
Yes. A very good evening to one and all present here. Before starting, I would like to congratulate Praghna on its 2nd anniversary, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to celebrate this day with you all by presenting my paper on protecting environment through the teachings of Buddha. Keeping it very short and simple, I would like to start by saying a verse from Dhammapada, which says that he who is seeking happiness by killing or punishing other being will never experience happiness even after his death. So basically, this verse tries to tell, this verse from Dhammapada teaches us that we need to understand environment in as a living entity, because we have lost our touch with our ancient knowledge. And this this allows me to proceed with my main argument, that is, we have also lost our touch with the knowledge of coexistence. The coexistence that is like, in order to give and take, like we are interdependent in a harmonious manner. What we are doing today is that we are living in a parasitic relationship with the environment, that we are just taking, we are taking and taking. We're not giving it back. Or in fact, we are extracting and exploiting. We have lost our sensitive touch with the nature. So I'm not saying that people today do not know what an environment or ecology or nature is. Of course, everybody can define it. But just defining it by words, it will not solve the problem of climate change or deforestation, or in fact, pollution. So we need to have some sense of connection with nature. Today, we have lost our and this is impacting our world today. Every species is getting impacted by such an attitude. Therefore, coexistence must be taught again in this world of parasite. That is what I want to focus aware. And as Muralidharan sir said in the starting, that little do we know is that with the negative impact on our environment, we will lose our economy, polity, society, and everything else. So I focus here. I would like to emphasize that environment is the center of everything around and across us. Uh, I would like to conclude, because of the paucity of time also, I would like to conclude by saying that by presenting a shlok from Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 3, shlok number 27, which says, Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankar vimud atma karta hamiti manyate, which means every work is grounded by the grace of nature, but only the arrogant people deny it. So whether it is Buddhism, whether it is our Bhagavad Gita, or anything that has been born on this land of Bharat, it has to be revived so that we can again protect our environment. Everything, in fact, politics is also connected to environment. So we need to focus on environment first, and only then we'll be proceeding further. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghavi. I would like to thank all the contributors as well for the profound insights. I now request Shri V. Rajamanikam, sir, to please convey his message to all of us.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Respected Admiral Muralidharan, Commodore Vasan, Dr. Krishnakumar, Professor Rajat Ganguly, Professor Raju, Professor Reddy, Professor N, Professor Balasubramaniam, Shri, Saurajit Ghosh, Commodore Deshmukh, Dr. Ashok Dua, Commander Nair, Shri, Kanau, esteemed guests and students. As a teacher, I am delighted to see the enthusiasm to learn and to undertake research on bold new topics by young students. Seeing their efforts, it is evident that the knowledge future of this great country is in safe hands. We are aware that progress by human race is possible only through progression of knowledge. Such knowledge needs teachers, mentors, and support from all like-minded persons. I am happy to note the enthusiasm and support that each of you give to the humble endeavors of Praghna Centre. Please allow me to say thank you. Also convey my blessings to each of you. My wife and I especially convey our blessings to the young scholars who have participated in this research writing event. Grow more, and together let us make India great through our own humble endeavors. Udyamena yasiddhanti karyani na manoratehi. That is one proverb which says only by efforts we will improve. Srinivasan will now announce the results of the competition. Best wishes to each of you. Namaste. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. We are very grateful to you and your wise words. Now I request Dr. Srinivasan to announce the prizes.
Yeah, thank you, Nasra. The 5 papers that have been received were judged by our esteemed 4 juries based on 9 parameters, which includes the appropriateness of the topic to the contents of the paper, the quality of the abstracts and the quality of keywords, the contents and quality of the introduction, which is supposed to give the context for the research, the specific research problem that has been identified or issue that has been taken up, the methodology that has been applied, whether it is quantitative methodology or qualitative methodology, the quality of the sources that have been consulted, whether they are primary sources or secondary sources, the quality of the citations, in-text citations as well as bibliography, full references, and the overall structure and presentation of the contents. I'm sure all these 8 points are squarely within some of the thoughts expressed by the eminent persons who spoke on this platform. And our endeavor through Praghna is to inculcate a culture of this structured research, absolutely objective, focused, and committed to producing something which can be taken forward by other scholars. So saying, based on these parameters and assessment done by our jury, I must first say that I will go in the order of 1, 2, 3 straight away. Okay. In the political science, we have considered Arushi Singh as the best paper. The title of the paper is Great Power Competition in the Gulf of Guinea. And in the history culture segment, we have considered Saurajit Ganguly's paper, Keeping Track of History, the Relevance of Oral Traditions and Material Memory from Feminist Perspective. As Professor Jayachandra Reddy, Professor Allan, Professor Balasubramaniam and Saurajit Ghosh mentioned, each of these papers is good. So as announced in the original call for papers for this prize, these two, that is Arushi Singh and Saurajit Ganguly, will receive a 2,000 rupees cash award apart from a certificate. But Jyoti Tripathi, Subham Kumar Khanu and Raghavi will also receive certificates for participation in this prize competition. I have one small request which you must seriously take. I'm talking about only these 5 contributors. I am already publishing the journal which I have talked about. We will be delighted to host your papers in our journal. Whether you have won the prize or you have not won the prize, your work is good. The prize is just incidental. The price is just an incidental matter, but the quality of the research and the approach that you have taken is so innovative that if it gets published and reaches a wider audience, we are confident that it will produce much more result in that particular direction, in those subjects. So I advise you, I have already sent an email to each of you that please work on your papers, the quality of citations, references, everything. You can revert to me back in about 2 weeks time, maximum of 2 weeks. If you send the papers back after checking the content, the abstract, the quality of citations, and that you have followed APA 6th edition citation style, I will definitely put it across to my editorial board and we will get them published as soon. Congratulations to all of you. And this is what you're going to get, a certificate. Of course, the names will change, just showing you as a kind of a sample. I'll put it that way. And I will request Arushi Singh, and I will also request our Saurajit Ganguly to please share your UPI IDs or whatever you want. I will just post my mobile number here. I will have this thing transferred to you tomorrow. Once again, congratulations. Please note down my number. You can give me a WhatsApp message.
Sure, thank
Anaswara,
you.
all yours. Anaswara?
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to hand it over to Ananya to conclude the program.
Thank you, Anaswara. Ladies and gentlemen, Commodore Deshmukh, Dr. Ashok Dua, and Commander Nair have been the pillars of support in all initiatives by Praghna. They are also the mentors of DRaS Praghna Research Writing Program, through which scores of students have learned the methodology of research. I now request Commodore SL Deshmukh, Nausena Medal, to share his felicitator remarks.
Thank you so much. Dr. Srinivasan, before I say something, Commodore Vasan has requested me to convey his message to the forum, especially to Professor Rajat. Professor, sir, the points what you brought out about the quality of the research and where India stands today, obviously merits consideration. There is absolutely no doubt. We do lack the quality and the citations, what we call the impact factor. However, we, including Dr. Srinivasan, Commodore Vasan, our endeavor always has been to promote a quality research, especially C3S focuses on training of the researchers and doing the rigorous checks of the quality, including plagiarism and the original thought process and the presentation part. And combinedly, Praghna and C3S have taught almost 100 researchers, and they have been mentored by the people who are masters in their own field, retired ambassadors, the specialists into their own subjects. So, sir, we like to assure you that whatever points you have brought, they are merit consideration. We are already doing it, and we are seeing the results of that particular effort. And we assure you that we'll continue to do this work and ensure that quality of the research done by our students and mentees rather, will meet the expectations what you have aligned for us. Thank you so much. That was a message from Commodore Vasan, and we at Praghna also are committed to it, sir. As far as what I wanted to say on this forum, it has been honor and pleasure for me to be part of this particular forum, and I have learned a lot myself. It is a two-way traffic, and I'm going to restrict myself to the what Praghna Forum does on the research work. So what we do is mentor our mentees for producing a quality research. And the dictum what we believe in Praghna, I would like to quote a shloka from Sanskrit. Chauraharyam nacha rajyaharyam nacha bhatrubhajyam na bharakari vayakrute vardataha evam nityam vidyadanam sarva pradhanam. This is the knowledge which cannot be stolen or which cannot be grabbed by the kingdoms, nor it can be squeezed by anybody. And this is the only wealth. Once it is parted with, it grows. And that's the dictum what we follow at Praghna. We really don't hold any knowledge with us while sharing our knowledge, our criticism, our opinions with the mentees to ensure they come up in life. It is indeed an honor and pleasure for me to work along with Dr. Srinivasan, Dr. Dua, and Commander Nair. They have indeed inspired me to devote my time, energy, and effort to a very worthy cause. And I give a commitment here that I won't let down this particular initiative. It's honor and pleasure for me. Rajamanikam sir and ma'am, I'm really honored that you have blessed us for this particular work. And we commit to you, sir, that you will never have an occasion to regret by giving us blessings and best wishes. Thank you so very much. And for my mentees, I would like to just say just one line in Sanskrit. Yata bhavo tata bhavati. What you think, you will become. Avoid plagiarism, do hard work, do real research, and you will prosper. Thank you so much. Because of you mentees, we are here today. Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan. All the best. God bless us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts and encouraging us. I now request Professor Dr. Ashok Dua to share his felicitator remarks.
Thank you, Ananya. It has been a wonderful evening listening to the panelists, starting from Admiral Muralidharan and down the line to respected professors. Many words of wisdom, and I'm grateful. At the outset, my gratitude to Shri V. Raja Manikam and Srimati Kalavati for being here on this platform and blessing us for us to do better and better. We in the country need to develop a culture of evidence-based research. And if we as a country have to progress towards the goals that we have set for ourselves, we need to undertake evidence-based research. There is no doubt about it. And I can confidently say that in our own ways, maybe a drop in the ocean, but we are doing precisely that and trying to make a difference, that we are trying to have a culture which is based on research. Because it is my strong belief that unless your decisions are based on research, nothing constructive will happen. So there is, this is important that we adopt a culture of research. I would like to congratulate Praghna Centre of Research for doing a wonderful work. We are moving in the right direction. And my hearty congratulations to Dr. Srinivasan and Madam Chitra for supporting this cause of developing a culture of research in the country. Excellent job. May Praghna Centre for Research continue to grow from strength to strength. All the best. All the best to interns. All the best to prize winners. Saurajit Ganguly. First is Arushi Singh. I understand she is not present. And Saurajit Ganguly. But notwithstanding, the other three papers have also been good, as said by the jury members and also by Dr. Srinivasan. So, heartiest congratulations. May you continue to do this research and may you continue to publish your paper in the quality journals which Dr. Srinivasan is bringing out, that is Electronic Journal of Social Sciences and Strategic Studies. So all the best to you. Thank you so much. I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. I now request Commander JK Nair, Founder Director of DRaS, to share his felicitative remarks.
Good evening, all my seniors, scholars, and friends. It's indeed a treat to listen to all the speakers who have spoken before me. We are short of time now. In behalf of Defense Research and Studies, I congratulate Group Captain Dr. Srinivasan and Mrs. Chitra Srinivasan for bringing up Praghna as one of the most outstanding center for research, I would say scientific research in our country. We are really honored to be associated with you, sir. We wish Praghna family the very best for the second anniversary today and wish them to achieve greater heights in the years to come. We promise all the support to Praghna in future. Also, let me congratulate the prize winners and wish them all the best. Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivasan, and God bless Praghna family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much for sharing your thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, in case anyone from the audience wishes to share a brief comment, you may do so before I call upon Anuswara to deliver the vote of thanks. I think I should proceed with the program now. Thank you. I request Anuswara to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ananya. I would proceed with delivering the vote of thanks. I would like to thank all the distinguished guests and audience for joining us today. For the sake of time, I take the liberty of not individually conveying our gratitude by name, but then I must say that our humble endeavors draw its strength from your ardent support, and we remain grateful. I wish to especially thank Shri Rajamanikam and Mrs. Rajamanikam at their age and stage of life, taking their precious time to join and bless us all on this occasion. Thank you, everyone. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you, Ananya and Anuswara. Deshmukh sir, Ashok Dua sir, JK, I mean, you and Professor Reddy, Professor Allan, Professor Balu, Saurajit Ghosh, and youngsters. I'm very grateful to all of you because of the encouragement and support and guidance that you so liberally provide. We are able to take this thing. And Commodore Vasan sir is online. Thank you very much, sir. So sweet of you that in spite of your travel, you know, been available to us and sharing your valuable thoughts. I will be in touch with you, sir. And to Professor Reddy, Professor Allan, and Professor Balu and Saurajit, I owe a special note of gratitude because I know I only can envy you actually. So because teachers have a tough job, okay, assessing one paper as against the other paper is something which is quite distinct. And as editors of journals, I'm sure you also have undergone, if I may use the word, pain of evaluating. Okay, you've been wonderful. You've always been available to give your support to the small endeavors that I take. And I must place on record my gratitude to my own wife, Chitra Srinivasan, because she is the pillar of strength, and the whole thing revolves around her support actually. And to Mrs. Sujata Deshmukh, please convey our special thanks. Okay, the name itself is because of her. Okay, thank you very much. We had a pleasant evening. If I have not mentioned anyone by name, please do not take it that I have forgotten. I cannot. Because of you only, these endeavors are going on. But then for the sake of time, I would like to say have a pleasant evening, have a great day. Thank you for joining, and let us all stay blessed.
Sir, will you allow me to conclude by saying a prayer on this auspicious occasion?
Yes, sir, you should.
Sarve api sukhina santu, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashit dukh bhag bhavet. May Praghna provide a research forum which will help India to come up. May God bless us all. Thank you so much.
Great job, Ananya.